You can use a free Google Sites account to create a complete website in minutes without any knowledge of coding or web development. This site can contain a rotating image carousel, a navigation menu, a map, YouTube video and more. Also, it's going to have responsive design, meaning it will look great on any size monitor. And it will also render your site for a mobile device automatically. If this sounds good to you, keep watching my video. I'll take you through building a complete site from start to finish. My name is Anas Gillaf and I'll be your instructor. So let's jump in. To access Google Sites, once you are logged in to your Google account, you can either click the thumbnail icon on the top right hand side and find sites in the list, or you can point in your browser to sites.google.com. If this is your first time using Google Sites, you may be prompted to put in your password again. Your Google Sites interface may look like this, or it may look like Google Sites Classic. Classic is this old version of Google Sites. In 2016, Google has updated it to a brand new version that was much easier to work with. I'm going to be covering the brand new version in this course. So if your screen looks like this, click New Google Sites on the left hand side. It's going to take you to this screen. Although, you may see a quick dialog box telling you about all the new features. However, now that you are here and we are all on the same page, this is the main screen of Google Sites. And now you are ready to follow along with this course. I am on sites.google.com, logged in with my Google account. I already have one complete site listed here, which I could click on, but for now I am going to create a blank site that we will build on for the duration of this course. I will create a site for London Hotel. To start creating a brand new site, click the plus sign on the very bottom right hand side of the screen. In just a moment, it's going to create a site for us. The first thing I am going to do is give my site a name. On the top left hand side of the screen, click Entitled Site. Here is where you can put on the name of your own site. I will call this one the London Hotel and hit the Enter key. This site name is not the same thing as the URL that somebody is going to enter to find your site. You will be able to specify that as following this video till the end, so this name can be anything you want it to be. Now that we have given it a name, let's go over the interface of Google Sites so that it becomes familiar to you. You can already see where we have put in a name, and you can come up here and change it at any time. To get back to the home screen of Google Sites, click the blue icon on the top left hand side of the screen. To the right of that, you can see where all your changes are saved. Google Sites are stored in Google Drive, so you never have to hit a save button. It saves them automatically. The curved arrows are undo and redo for your last action if you made a mistake. You can also preview what your site looks like on a desktop, tablet or a mobile device. You can click to add editors to share working on the site with you. And I will show you later. You can also click these three dots to get to more things that you can do. In fact, anywhere in Google Sites that you see three dots like this, click on them. You will get a brand new context menu. For example, here is where you can go to connect site analytics to see who's accessing your site. You can duplicate it and go into site info settings and access the help file and take a tour of how to use Google Sites if you need a quick refresher. The publish button is when you are finally ready to publish your site to the world. For now, my site is not live on the web until I click this publish button. Over here on the right are all the tools to create my sites. The Insert tab contains things like text boxes, images. I can embed things and I can add them right from Google Drive. Here is where you can change layouts similar to a PowerPoint presentation, how things are arranged on the screen. Directly below that are all the elements that I could insert into my site. For example, a table of contents, a rotating image carousel, dividers, YouTube files, calendars, maps, and any other Google product like slides, sheets, and forms for surveys. Scrolling to the top of the tabbed interface, I can click Pages. Here is where I can add some new pages to my sites. I have a home page, and then directly below that, I can click the plus sign to add a new page. On the right, I can choose a theme for my site. This is going to control the color and font and the general look and feel of my site. Finally, in the middle of the page is my actual site itself. If I hover my mouse over a text block, I can see that block outlined in blue. When I hover my mouse over it, certain context menus will appear. For example, the availability to change an image or the header type will appear. I can also double-click inside any white space to bring up items that I can add. Our site is created, but before we create pages or put in a header or a logo, let's choose a theme. On the top right hand side of the screen, make sure you are in the themes area. Now we can scroll down and choose something for our sites. I click Impression. Once I click on a theme, I can choose from some default colors here. But I can also click on the paint icon and put in my own custom color. This is useful if you already have a logo or some sort of color scheme that you were hoping to stick with. I'll put in the London Hotel logo color. It's going to instantly change. And I hit the Enter key. I've selected the theme. So now I click back on the word Impression. And here we get a font style menu. If I click on the arrow, I can choose between narrow, frank, and capital. I'll stick with the defaults. So we have a theme saved. Now let's add our logo and change this header a little bit. The first thing I can do is hover my mouse in this area and click Header Type. This menu comes up when you hover your mouse in the header area. I click on it and I can choose from large banner, a massive cover size picture, a regular banner, and I can remove the banner entirely and have text only by choosing Title Only. In this case, I click Banner. I then click the arrow on the left hand side, and now I can change the image to put on my own. I click Change Image. I can either select Upload to choose one that's on my desktop computer, or I can choose Select Image. Selecting the image will let me choose from gallery that already exists in Google Sites. This way, I can use some pre-built headers if I don't have any of my own. I can also put in an image if I know the URL of it. That is, if it's stored somewhere else on the internet, I can do a Google search and find an appropriate header. I can use any albums that I have in Google Photos. And finally, I can click on Google Drive. I already have some images saved in Google Drive. In fact, this images folder already exists in Drive, so I'll select that. I have a banner file ready to go. So I'll select that, click Select, and it's going to put it in place. Since this will be my home page, I don't need a big title here. I can select this block. Once I click inside it, and the blue is outlined, a context menu will appear above it. From here, I click the trash icon to delete the title. Now, I'm left with just my banner. You may notice that your banner may get dark or light. At the bottom right hand side of the screen, Google Sites will automatically put on a readability adjustment for that logo. That is, it's going to make the logo lighter so that any text above it will be easier to read. You can toggle this on or off by clicking the button. It's really up to you and the way your site looks. So now I'm left with just my banner. The last thing I'm going to do is add a logo. This logo will come across on every page. I'll hover my mouse on the top left hand side where it says London Hotel and that logo will appear. I click it, and once again I can either upload it from my computer or select it in a place such as Google Drive. I click select because my logo is in Drive, and I repeat the process and scroll down, and here is my logo. I select it, and now I can select the background. I can choose between a white background, a black one, or a transparent one. I'll make mine transparent, and I can also use a color. Once I am done, I can see my logos at the top. Now we have chosen a theme, we have added a header banner, and we have added our logo to the entire site. Before we go any further, let's talk about managing the site and how to get back to it so that you can work on it later. To get back to the root homepage of Google Sites, click the icon on the very top left hand side of the page. You will be brought back to the main screen. To perform actions on these sites, you can either click on the three dots or right click on the site itself. You can rename your site, delete it, or open it in a new tab to start working on it. You can use the tools on the top right hand side to see them differently. For example, if somebody had shared a site with you to help edit, you can click owned by anyone and change it to not owned by me so that you can find it quickly. You can also toggle between viewing all your sites in icon view and the list view. This is obviously more helpful if you have many more sites, but it's all going to depend on how you like to work. You can change the sort order of how the sites are displayed, and last, you can open the file picker if you have a Google site stored somewhere else on Google Drive. You can also click these three horizontal lines in Google Sites to open up the main menu screen. This is going to open up a mini Google Drive window. While you can get to docs, sheets, slides, and forms from here, you can also get to Google Drive. As your site is being stored here, it's useful to learn how Google Drive works. I have a lot of files in here, and I can tell that this is a Google site because of this icon. If you remove the site, you can find it in the trash in Drive itself. Click the word trash on the left hand side. Here is a site that I had previously deleted. And again, I can tell it's Google site because of that icon. To restore it, right click on the file and choose restore. Then it's going to show up back in your Google site lists. To continue working on any site, click on it once. It's going to take you back into that editing screen. A great feature of Google Sites is the ability to add editors and work with them simultaneously on your site. When you add someone to work on a site, it will show up in the list of sites that we saw on the main screen. They can open whenever they want and start working on it even if you already are. To start, I need to share my site with someone else, and I do that by clicking share with others on the top right hand side of the screen. Here is where I can see currently who has access. For example, people that can edit the file, anybody that can find and view the published site, and here is me. I can see on the right I am the owner. I can get started inviting people to work on this with me by putting in their name or email address. I could continue adding more people if I want. I can also click add message. Though, I don't have to include a note if I didn't want to. I click send. And then I place a check mark next to prevent editors from publishing, changing access, and adding new people. This way, none of these things can happen without my permission. So here I can see the person I invited. If I click the pencil icon, I can change their permission levels, and I can remove it entirely by clicking the X all the way on the right hand side. Once again, we can always click change on these options. For example, in the published area, right now it's set so that anyone can find and view my site. But if I click change, I can add specific people who can view my site when it's published. This is incredibly useful for an internal site like a company intranet. I click save on this, and I click save change again, and finally done to get out of the screen. Let's start adding pages to our site. I'll go to our pages tab on the top right hand side of the screen. And here I can see that we have one page, the home page, which is what we are looking at in the center of the screen. Let's add a few more. I am not worried about content now, only getting the site structure. To create a new page, hover your mouse over the plus sign and choose new page. I'll call this one Rooms. I can either click done or hit the return key on my keyboard. We just added a new page. Once I create that second page on my site, I can see that a navigation bar has appeared on the top right hand side. This is what site visitors will use to move around the site. Let's create a few more. We have a few pages now. If I want to rearrange anything, I can take these links and drag them wherever I want to on the site. You will see that it changes the way the navigation bar looks on the fly. Clicking the three dots on the right hand side will give you some actions that you can do with that page. You can set a page to the home page this way, which would be the first page that your visitors see. You could duplicate it. You can click properties to rename a page. You can also click delete to remove a page. When you delete a page, there is no way to get it back again. You can also click hide from navigation to hide a page from showing up in the navigation bar. This is useful when you want to have a page exist and link to it elsewhere on your site, but you don't need it to be a visible page. Finally, there is the option to add a sub-page. Now that we have our pages up, next, let's make a choice about where the navigation bar should go on our site. Now that we have created our pages, let's see what this would look like as a user of my site. So let's click the preview button, and that's the laptop and phone icon right at the top of the screen. This is going to open up a special preview area so that I can see my site. So this is a good way to see how this is going to look, and maybe you want to rearrange some pages. When you are all done, click the X on the bottom right hand side of the screen. If I didn't want this navigation page at the top, I'd also have the options to have it appear on the left side of the screen. If I hover my mouse over in this top area, I can click the gear icon. It's going to bring me into navigation settings, and the two choices that I have are top navigation, which is the default option, and side navigation. You can make your choice based on how many pages you have and personal preference. So I choose side navigation, and let's see how it looks. I click the preview button again, and here we can see it's changed completely. It's going to change the look and feel of your site, so it comes down to preference versus which one is going to work better for your users that are using the site. Something else to note about site navigation. And a nice thing about previewing the site is down here in the bottom right hand side of the screen, you can see what it's going to look like from a desktop computer, a tablet, and even a mobile phone. I'm going to click on the mobile phone for a minute. As most mobile sites nowadays, the navigation bar is described by these 3 lines. It's going to bring up your menu. And Google Sites will make this for you. So if you click on these 3 lines, it's going to bring up your menu. So if you are previewing your site on a mobile phone and you can't find your navigation bar, just look for those 3 lines at the top. You can navigate through again and see what's going to look like on a tablet or a desktop computer, and then click Exit Preview when you are done. If you want to change it again to being at the top of the screen, hover your mouse over this area on the left again. Click the gear icon and choose Top Navigation. You might find that you want to include links to external sites or files. I'm going to start by creating a link to a PDF file. I'll make a handy information sheet of my website. I'll hover my mouse over the plus, but instead of choosing new page, I'm going to pick new link. My link can either be one of these sites, or it can be somewhere completely different. So, I'll put in my shareable link here. I need to put a name. I'll call it Handy Information. I click Done, and here is my link. You will see that it appears here at the top. A good thing about creating a Google site is the use of components. You can drag items around a virtual grid on the screen. Let's get started by adding some component to the home page. Make sure you are on the Insert tab on the top right hand side. There is a few ways that I can add components. I can add them directly from this pane. I can see some layouts that we can play around with, and we will be doing that when we go over adding images. And directly below that, I can quickly click one button and get an element onto the grid. I will click to add a divider. It's added right in the next available slot. These websites are designed to be responsive, so Google Sites will automatically resize the way your web page displays based on the size of the screen of your visitor. We can always preview it and see how it's going to look. I can also add components by double-clicking on any blank space. It's going to pop up a circle in which I can add all of the same components that we saw over there on the right. For example, an image, a file from Google Drive. I'm going to click to add a text box, and I can start typing or copy my text. I can select it just like I can edit any other text. I can change it with some predefined styles. For example, I change this to a heading. I can also choose how it's aligned. I can make it a link, and I can delete it by clicking the trash icon. You'll see my entire component area because when I hover my mouse over it, it changes to a dotted line. I can add more text boxes to these components. I can add images, anything. I'll double click, add another text box and start typing. To stop typing, click away from the screen. Each block on the page is given its own background color. If I hover my mouse over it on the left, I can click on the palette to change the background. I change this one to emphasize 2. I could also delete this entire component by clicking the trash icon. It's going to delete the entire section which contains these 2 completely separate text blocks. If I hover my mouse over these dotted lines, I can move components. They are both selected right now, so when I click and drag, they are both going to go. However, I can click on each individual text box and move that one around by itself. I can also click and drag to reorganize entire sections, and I'll be showing you that later. When creating pages, note that everything is clickable. Let's go to our header. On the top, I'm going to hover my mouse over the header type. There is already the banner on it and we can't see it very well because this text is so big. It's quite large and it's hard to read. So let's change the style to heading. I'll select it, change it to a heading, and it's much smaller. I could also change the alignment. For example, I will left align it. I can see it now, and I can also click and move it around on the screen. You'll notice that when I changed the style to header, it also got rid of the big horizontal line that was blocking the text. Now that I have moved it around a little bit, it's much easier to read. So at any time, I can drag text boxes around, move them, change the alignment, and get it all set up for how I want to see it on the screen. I last showed you how components work and how each component can be dragged around and moved easily. The same goes for images. I'm going to change to our rooms page. I have already changed the header to text only and add other text components here. But now let's add some images. To get started, let's change to the Insert tab. Now, I could double-click on any white space and add an image. However, Google Sites gives us some pre-built layouts, visible here on the right-hand side. So I'll start with this one. I click on it and place it into the next available section. To get started, click the first plus sign. In the menu, you will see all the options I have for adding content. I can add a Google map, a calendar, even a YouTube video. I can upload a photo I already have. I can select an image, or I can pull one right from Google Drive. This first time I choose Select Image. We have already seen this before. We can paste an image URL if we have one. I could do a Google search. I could pull photo directly from a Google photo album. And finally, I do get the option here to also pull it from Google Drive. In this case, I go to my images folder, find one of my rooms and click select. It's going to put this image in the place folder. If I wanted to resize it right away, I could by using these three dots. I'm going to leave it at this size because it matches all other images. Once I click on the photo, a menu appears at the top. The first thing I can do is crop it. If I select it, I can use the zoom slider to make it larger or smaller. I can also move the image around in the pin the picture dimensions. I'll make it look a little bit nicer in the frame and click the checkbox. I can uncrop, which would undo everything that I just did. I can also click to enter a link. I can put in a regular URL, but I click the back button because I can also put in an image. In a previous section, I showed you how you can hide a page from showing up in that navigation bar, but you can still link to it elsewhere on the site. Any pages, even if you have hidden from the navigation bar, will still show up in this list, so that you can link to it. I click the back button for now. I can delete this photo altogether and I can click the three dots for some more editing options. I can swap it out entirely with a new image. And I can click to add alternative text, that is, a description of the photo for accessibility options for people who are using a screen reader. I click cancel. I'm going to go ahead and put in the other rooms. As they were all on Google Drive, I'll use that method. Now that all my photos are here, directly underneath I can click to edit text, so that I can add the captions that go along with these photos. For each caption, just like the photo, I can click the blue dots and resize it. I can also change what kind of text it is. I can make it bold, italic, change the alignment and even add a hyperlink to this text. This looks great, but the last thing I'm going to do is hover my mouse over the entire section, click the palette icon and change the section background to this nice color. That makes it really stand out. Now it's looking good. As this is our info page, let's give site visitors our essential information. I could either click to insert a text box on the right hand side, but I always prefer double clicking where I want it to go, as it's much quicker. I'll double click directly underneath and choose text. Now I can start typing the services information. I can resize this text box by clicking and dragging inward on the blue dots. I want to do that because I'm going to put in another text box to the right of it. I'll double click inside that blank space and click to make a text box again. Now I can type more information. I could also click and drag this to resize it if I wanted to, and I can boldface certain text to make it look nicer. I could also change the style and do whatever I want to with it. Let's add a YouTube video to our dining page. I already have the video up here on YouTube, so I'm going to copy the URL. I'll select it in the browser, right click and choose copy. I'll head over to my dining page, change to the Insert tab and scroll down to find YouTube. In the video search box, I'll paste in the URL that I just copied and click the magnifying glass icon. Here is the video. I need to select it once by clicking on it, and then I can click select at the bottom. It's going to insert the video. There is a few options that I can change, but not too many. I'll click the gear icon, and here I can change whether or not I want to hide the controls. I can change the color of the progress bar, and I can decide whether or not to allow visitors to view my video in full screen or not. I click done, and now the YouTube video is embedded on the site and visitors can play and use the controls right on the page. I'm going to double click and add a text box to give some context to the video so that users know what they are looking at. You can just repeat this process for every video that you want to add onto the page. Another Google element we can add is a map. I change back to our info page, I scroll to the bottom, change to the Insert tab, and now I click Map. You can select from my maps if you already have a custom map that you have created, otherwise you can enter a location. I'll put in our hotel address. I select it, and I can click drop a place mark. I can click on the map if I want to place it or drag it around if it wasn't put in the right place. Now I can choose the blue select button. I can take this map and click and drag to expand it. Now we have a nice map in place. Let's go over some last few details on how you can manipulate and work with the sections and components, including changing the background. On the Insert tab, we have done some work with some built-in layout, but I'm going to show you how you can do the same type of thing without having a layout. I'll start by adding some text. I'll make this a bit smaller, and now I'll double click to the right a bit to add an image. I'll select images from Google Drive. I find my picture and choose select. I'll make this a bit smaller. Now we have one section complete, and now we have 5 sections. This one would be much better served in the middle, so let's rearrange it. I can do that by clicking and dragging on the dots on the left hand side of the section and release it where I want it to go. Now it's much easier to read. I can make it even easier by changing the background color. I'm going to select this first section by hovering my mouse over it. I click the palette icon and change the section background. I leave the middle one white, but I do the same thing to the last one. Now, when I'm scrolling, I can see that there are very clear sections that are all completely different from one another. If I wanted to get rid of a section entirely, I can click the trash can and it will delete the entire section. I can also delete each piece of content separately by selecting it and clicking the trash can on whatever I might want to delete. Something we haven't done yet is set an image as a background. I'll go over this section. Instead of adding this image, on the right hand side, I choose to add a background image. I'll click the palette icon. But instead of choosing one of these styles, I'll hover my mouse over image. I can either upload an image from my computer or select one from Google Drive. I'll select an image, choose Drive, and I'll find this photo. I select it, it's going to adjust for readability, and in just a few moments I'll see the way my picture is going to look in the background. Now, when people scroll through, they can see that it's clear, it's readable, and you can see the text over the image. In fact, I don't have to choose one of my own photos to set as a background. I click the image again, choose Select Image, and I can choose from this gallery. I can have a pre-built one if I want something nice for the background. But I don't have any images for my own. I'll hit cancel for now. So it's possible to have a nice background that you didn't need to create. Okay, our site's ready to go. We are all done with the design. Let's go publishing our sites. Before publishing your site, it's a good idea to first add a footer and then go through and preview your site. This way, you can make appropriate changes and test to make sure your site and content will be readable on a desktop, tablet, or a mobile device. The first thing that we can do is add a footer. Down at the bottom of any page, hover your mouse all the way down at the bottom and click Add Footer. It defaults to the small font, and here is where you can put a footer that any site visitor is going to see across the bottom of every page. I'll click away and here is my footer. I can also center it if I want to. I think it will look a little bit better that way, but we are going to find out, because now it's time to preview our site. At the top of the screen, and you should be familiar with this by now, click the preview button. And now that your site is done, this is a good time to go through every page. Test your menus, click on all the pages, and not just in regular mode. Go down and click on tablet mode and mobile mode. This is going to show you exactly how it's going to look to a user who is accessing your site on a mobile device. Make sure the menus work. You can even test this on multiple browsers such as Safari, Internet Explorer, and Google Chrome to know any differences and how it looks through each browser. I go back to desktop mode and I can see my footer is there at the bottom. Also, when you are done, click the X to go back to editing your site and you can make any changes you like. We have designed our site, tested it in multiple browsers on multiple devices. Now it's time to publish it. Before we go, please friends, if you like my course and would like to get more next week's, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. And if you want to suggest another course for the next days, please let me know in comments. Now, we are ready to hit that big blue button labeled Publish at the top of the screen. Something to think ahead of time are possible URLs for your site. Your site will be accessible by typing https:// sites.google.com/view/ whatever you pick as the web address. The more common your choice is, the chances are greater that it's already taken. So you may have to get creative with your site name. Now Google Sites support custom URLs, meaning you can have www.yourdomain.com and it can point back to your Google site. If you click Manage, Google Site will help you set this up. It will require you to first register site domain somewhere else and point it back to this site. I can also choose if I want search engines to index my site or not, though it's not a guarantee it will show up in search results. If I don't want it at all, I can place a check mark here. I click the Publish button and in just a few moments we are live. I click the View button that's appeared at the top of the screen and it's going to open up in a new browser window. As you can see, my site is sites.google.com/view/London Hotel and it's taken me to the home page. I can follow though and click all of my links just like I did when I previewed it in the browser. Because I am logged in as myself, I can click the pencil icon on the top right hand side of the screen to go back to editing it. Though only editors will get this icon. I can now share this URL with anybody that I want. Once a site is published, there is some more things you can do with it. Click the three dots to the left of the Publish button. The first thing that you can do is add your site analytics code. The tracking ID will keep track of who is visiting your site and how they are find it. You can also duplicate your sites. Here is also where you can come in and add a custom URL. Once again, you can register your site with a registrar, point it here and assign it. You may have also noticed that there is now a down arrow next to the Publish button. Clicking that arrow will give you three options. The middle option is to view the site. This is how you can get there without having to type the URL in the browser first. The third option is to unpublish the site. If you don't need it anymore, clicking Unpublish will leave the site intact for editing, but it won't be live on the internet with that URL anymore. That first option, which is Publish Settings. Here I can come in and change the site URL if I have to. I am going to click Cancel for now. My name is Anas Gilaf and I hope you enjoyed this course on using Google Sites. If you are looking for more courses, I highly recommend subscribing on my channel and hit the bell icon. And if you have any questions or comments, you can put it below.